This is the Trade Radio podcast for NAB, proudly fortifying Australia since 2002.
Greg Swann, Brisbane Lions CEO, thank you for your time on Trade Radio.
You're well, Plough. How are you?
We're well. You've got a bit going on
Swatty?
in your world at the moment, haven't you? Maybe not as much as right now as Neil Baum, but there's still a bit going on.
Yeah, no, there is a little bit. And as you actually, I just heard, I was on the phone when you were talking about that. It's interesting. You take a call from somebody and, you know, your day changes a bit. So, yeah, that probably happened with Joel Patfull. So we've just got to work through that at the minute.
So what is happening there, Neil? Sorry, Greg, the word did come through yesterday that he may want to contemplate a career in New South Wales, and that seems to be the case today. What's the absolute latest with him?
Yeah, no, look, I think that's right. And there's certainly no animosity or, any, get me out of here or, I need to go. I mean, he's sort of looking for life post-footy, and he thinks he'll end up in Sydney, like as in just Sydney the town, not Sydney the footy club. But he's got a year to run, and he understands that, we hold the aces there. But look, he's just said that in the end he'll end up in Sydney when he retires from footy. He'll end up in Sydney. So if there's an opportunity to get there, he's happy to do it, and if not, he's happy to stay. So it's not no one's killing themselves over it, but it's just one of those ones that's been floated. So as I said, we'll have to work through that and see where that ends up.
Work through it. The big play for the Lions in this next period is to get Dane Beams out of Collingwood for something that Collingwood's going to be happy with. We spoke with Dean Warren at your footy club yesterday. He made it pretty clear that pick four and pick four alone, but we spoke with Derek Hine today, or the boys did earlier on Trade Radio. I just want to replay part of that conversation before I get your response on where that's now at. This is Derek Hine earlier today on Trade Radio.
It's good of Dean to talk to you guys, because at this point in time we haven't spoken to Dean, and we really only got a late call yesterday afternoon from Peter. So from our side of things, I mean, look, we clearly rate Dane as a player that's just moving into the prime of his career. I mean, he'll play at 25 next year, All-Australian Premiership player. Just off the top of my head, I don't think he's been out of the top three in our best and fairest for the last 3 or 4 years, having won it at 1 year. So, I mean, clearly he's an elite player in the competition. And, as a footy club, we're really strong on where we sit, not only at our club, but also in the competition. And, it's going to take a little bit more than pick four, put it this way.
Okay, Greg, you know that man very well, Derek Hine. You're a tough.
Well.
You do.
Yep.
You're a tough negotiator, but you also know what has to be done to get deals done at this time of year. What are you going to do in order to get Dane Beams on your club's list? Yeah,
look, I think that's, as he touched on there, I think Peter Schwab's catching up with him at the Combine. I'm still in Brisbane at the minute, but I mean that's still got a bit to play out. I mean, I think, look, it's almost like, there's been lines drawn in the sand. Initially, it was sort of coming out that they wanted a good young player and pick four, and then we offered pick four. I mean, in the end, the deal has to be done where everybody thinks they've had, some semblance of a win. Like, it can't be that because otherwise people will walk away. So you've got to look to do that deal. So I'm sure in the discussions between Peter and Derek, there'll be some other things put on the table, and obviously both camps will go back and have a look and see what can happen there. But I suppose one of the other issues we've got is, we need to pick four because Melbourne have done a really good job in trying to sell the world that they'll get pick 3 for James Frawley, and that pushes us back to 5, and that has a little bit of an effect on our ability to trade as well. So we'd be we're a bit. I know Roosie said everyone he speaks to thinks that pick 3 is the fair pick, but we certainly don't, and we would have thought an end of first round would be best for James, but it has a big impact on us. So
just jumping in there, you're saying that what Melbourne is expecting to get for James Frawley, which is after their first pick in the draft, is going to be way overs in your eyes?
Well, I would have thought so. I mean, we're talking pick 3. It's a massive pick in a draft. And, I would have thought that would be reserved for, top echelon players.
Will you be arguing the toss on that with the AFL?
Yeah, look, we have said that, as I said, we've got the immediate pick after. So, we go from 4 to 5, and obviously I'm not speaking for other clubs, but, that has a big effect on us and how we, and our ability to trade and everything else. So we just like to think that it wasn't just a standard, fait accompli that James gets pick 3, because, there's a whole lot of stuff that goes into it, and obviously has an effect on others around around where Melbourne's pick is. So,
Swanny, just staying with that. Obviously, Melbourne Footy Club asked for compensation. They didn't receive that compensation. Do you believe that should have no impact on what they're doing in regards to whether they get pick 3 or they don't get pick 3?
I would have thought so. I mean, I would have thought they're two different things. I mean, that was obviously a commission decision. You know, the guys who make this determination, you know, there's a whole lot of parameters, length of contract, amount of money, you know, what the player's standing is in the game and all that thing. So I would have thought that's a separate issue. Just because you didn't get compensation, you need to get overcompensated here. I would have thought it's two different things. Well,
if you think that Buddy Franklin last year went, whatever it was, picked 19, 20 or whatever it was for what his standing in the game is, and when you have a look at James Frawley over the last 3 years, 7th, 9th and 8th in a club's best and fairest and a club that's either been, you know, in the bottom couple on the ladder in all of those occasions, it doesn't really stack up. And to be honest, I've been this way the whole way along. I just can't see how that stacks up to pick 3, which would be the highest pick ever handed out to any club. Brendan Goddard, Lance Franklin, it would be the highest pick for James Frawley coming off the back of 7th, 9th and 8th in a B&F.
Yeah, look, I'm probably overstepping the mark a bit getting involved in all this, but I mean, because we're, as I said before, because we're next pick, yeah, I think you've probably summed it up pretty well. It's just an interesting debate. There's certainly, they need compensation, no doubt about that. But whether it's as high as pick 3, that's obviously that panel that determines that will do so. But hopefully they take into account all those things that you just mentioned.
Well, they do have the ability as well, and we'll leave it at that. But they do have the ability of being able to sort of say, yes, it's a mid-first round pick, or as you mentioned, a late first round pick. They have that flexibility. It doesn't have to come after Melbourne's whether it be first round pick or second round pick. They have the flexibility to be able to slot it in other areas as well.
Yeah, I think Gary Ablett might have ended up with a couple of picks, and one might have been a mid-draft, and one was tied to where Geelong were. And I haven't got the detail in front of me, but yeah, they can do anything really. So they can put them, as you say, mid-first round, late first round. But I mean, just from my point of view, and you guys are over the draft. I mean, even going from 4 to 5, and then the teams that are just above us, 5 to 6, etc. It just makes a big difference in your ability to trade and B, who you might get if you actually go to the draft. So it's an interesting one.
Swanny, do you get the feeling that something may have been struck between Melbourne and the AFL over the claim, which Terry and I both believe to be ambit, for the compensation pick for poor form over the past couple of years, and maybe as by way of trade-off to get the high compensation for Frawley?
No, look, I don't. I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't say that. I don't know that, and I wouldn't say that.
Okay.
No.
And
all I'm saying
last
is
one on this.
They're two separate issues.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Last one on this. Will you protest officially if they do get the early selection?
No. Look, once, as I said, there's a process in place, and they'll make a determination. No, I mean, look, once it's done, it's done. But I mean, I'm just interested in the public. They've done a very good job, Melbourne, in selling that everybody agrees that we should get pick 3. Well, we don't. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, understand. We mentioned Joel Patfull there, and you've explained his situation. Can you clear up Daniel Merritt's status as a Lion, please?
Yeah, no, same thing. Daniel's contracted. It was floated early in the piece, not by us certainly, that there's interest, and he may want out. Actually, I saw him. He was in the club yesterday. He had a minor op on his ankle, and he's certainly happy here. So it's sort of just one that seems to be bubbling away in the background, but no one's really, certainly his manager we haven't had discussions about Daniel. So as I said, he's contracted. He's got 2 more years to go, and we don't have that many experienced players that we can afford for everybody to be walking out the door. So we'll just we don't think anything's happening, but I suppose until next week when it all starts officially. But as I said, there might be some discussions had at the combine this week, amongst all the coaches and staff. But at this stage, nobody's come to us for an offer for Daniel, no.
Swanny, what would Joel Patfull be worth? I mean, he's such a fascinating one. I mean, twice best and fairest, top 3 finish again. So his status in the game is outstanding, but then he's a defender that will be 30 starting off a new season next year. What would his value in the marketplace be?
No, it's a really good question. I mean, there's talk of, West Sydney because they need the experience, but we're not much older than them. So, we'd be loath to lose that experience. As you say, we certainly out-premier defender. Every week he gets the best opposition forward. As you said, he finished third in our best and fairest. He's won 2 BNS before that. So, we don't have 100 Joel Patfull floating around this place. So, it's an interesting one. But as I said, it was a mature discussion. It was, look, if it can happen, we'd look at it. If not, we're happy to stay. So it's one of those ones that, if somebody wants to make the running, obviously you consider it. But you're right, it's a difficult one to put an exact value on because whilst he's a good player, he's coming towards the end. But from our point of view, we can't afford to lose him. Unless something really good came our way.
You've got some great young players up there. Would you be prepared to lose him if you were going to add to that group of young players? So if it could be a player-for-player swap and you saw the potential of a 10 to 12-year player stepping into your club for a best and fairest winner going out, would you look at that?
Yeah, look, yeah, you would. I mean, you'd have to look at all those things. I mean, one of the things, and I think Derek covered off in his spiel with you guys, your age profile. Now, we are really young, and we're very, very young. I think we're the third or fourth youngest team, and, so that maturity would be a loss for us. But, if you've got a young guy who might be the next Joel Patfull and can play for 10 or 20, 10 years, then you might look at that. But, part of that is you've got to get the person who wants to come, and you've got to get, if it is West Sydney that, they want to do that deal or... So it's got a lot to play out, that one. And as I said, it's actually all very amicable, but we'll just, we're in no rush to do anything about that.
Yeah. Hey, Greg, you started the ball rolling with the Paddy Ryder situation. I think you were the first person to make the call on him. I know others have since, but have you given up totally? And I know you've got to go to a board meeting in a few moments, but have you given up totally on the potential of Paddy Ryder joining?
Yeah, look, I think it's highly unlikely. I mean, once in my experience, once they choose a club, that's obviously, you're out of the running. You don't really want to be second fiddle, even if he changed his mind or a deal couldn't be done. So I think, from our point of view, we've bowed out. We're not in that game anymore.
Sure. Well, we know you've got a couple of minutes now up your sleeve to go from your own office there to the Lions boardroom. But thanks for joining us as you always do on Trade Radio, Swanny.
No worries. Thanks, guys.